Hello and welcome to your astrological vibrations for Thursday, July 20th, 2017 by Gaia Blooming. I am Mimi and our energy mantra for today is I am worth the self-care. And in addition to that, I have added, I offer myself this freedom. I offer myself this foundation of self-care. You are worthy of the self-care. And wow, it may be needed today to move through the day. The big news today is that we have Mars shifting from Cancer into Leo. So we're definitely going to get into that energy. We will now have Mercury, the North Node, and Mars all hanging out in this Cancer energy. So we have that, or not Cancer energy, sorry, in that Leo energy, bringing in the Leo energy. We are finishing up the Cancer energy. And the Moon in Gemini and the Sun in Cancer are both making many connections today. I think I'm going to start with the Sun, actually. The Sun is making two major connections today. One is with Uranus. So we have the Sun squaring Uranus. And so this may be a bit of a freedom process. This may be a little bit of an upheaval process. Now, I mentioned in yesterday's scope, which, by the way, if you are on YouTube and only watch my scopes on YouTube, I was not able to get the scope out on YouTube. I had no power for 15 hours. We had somebody right back here outside my bedroom door hit a power pole and it went down, and so no power for 15 hours. But I did post it on Facebook, on the Gaia Blooming Facebook page, if you would like to go back and watch that. But I mentioned in that how we're gearing up for both Mercury retrograde and Uranus retrograde. We're not in the shadow of Mercury retrograde yet, but I'm feeling these vibrations. So part of this square energy is really grounding in through your personal flow, remembering we are made up of a very large percentage of water. I don't know that number percentage, but a very large percentage of water. So tending to yourself, nurturing yourself, caring for yourself. I believe in the GPS for this week that I had the Sulis card at one point, and it said go to the water, so salt bath or ocean, drinking water, that's part of your grounding process, even though that's water energy. That is going to help you with this Sun-Uranus square. The self-care that you are worth is going to help you with this Sun-Uranus square. It's also going to help you with this lesson through this, which is tuning into who you are. And I know I had this card in GPS a few times, the rebirth card. So here we are, rebirthing ourselves into this innocent energy, our authentic, childlike, beautiful, divine energy. But it takes self-care and it takes tending to ourselves in the physical realm in order to get ourselves there into that process. Now, the Sun square Uranus energy is happening at 28 degrees. So that is that degree of knowing our worth, knowing we are a 10. You can treat yourself as such. And if you believed yourself to be a 10, this divine creature, how would you treat yourself? Or how would you treat somebody else that you would see, like an angel? Or for Jesus, you know, there's always that thing, what if Jesus stopped by? How would you treat them? Treat yourself in that manner and see how things shift in your life. This also may be a call to release the things that do not honor you in your life. Accept the lesson that you got from them, but let go of those things. Now, what I love is that at the same time that the Sun is squaring Uranus, it is trining Chiron. So anything that's falling off, anything that's, you know, feeling uncomfortable, being liberated right now, is also bringing us healing. So one process that I do when I cut cords, I ask Archangel Michael or Kali, whoever I'm using to cut the cords. I also ask Archangel Raphael to come in and heal the areas where the cords come in. And that's what I'm kind of feeling. On one hand, there is this release to that which is no longer good for you, for that which is no longer true to your authentic vibration, for that which no longer honors the worth of who you know yourself to truly be. So we have the release of that, but then we have the Sun trine Chiron energy. And so this is calling in healing energy for you because you're worth the healing that comes with and through this process. So we do have this rebirth process, but it's going to take some falling away in order to get there. Call on the healing, call on the universe to support you in and through this, because I promise the universe is taking you through this, and the universe agrees with me that you are worth the self-care, and that if you offer yourself that foundation, you will give yourself that freedom. So that's majorly happening. At the same time that this is happening, we also have actually the moon in Gemini feeding into these energies. The moon in Gemini is sextiling Uranus and squaring Chiron. Where it's squaring Chiron, you may not yet believe, you may not have the knowledge of the healing that is coming forth within this. Don't get caught up in needing to know how the healing's happening. Call on the angels, call on the support to bring that in. I have it right here. You may not have the awareness of how this is happening, but trust, believe that it is happening. That's that energy of Moon in Gemini sextiling Uranus. Believe. The universe has so many interesting ways that it works with and for and through us. Believe in it and let the universe figure out the details. You do not have to know the hows. You don't know how. You have to know how this process is happening, just that it absolutely is happening, and it's happening for you. All right, so we have all that majorness happening. Before all that happens, and before we even get into Mars, into Leo still, so much going on in the astro, we have the moon in Gemini being very chatty, because why wouldn't it be chatty? It's the moon in Gemini. The moon in Gemini is meeting up with Jupiter, it's meeting up with Venus, it's meeting up with Saturn, and it is meeting up with Mercury. And by the way, Mercury and the North Node are conjunct. And so with Mercury and the North Node conjunct, and this movement, this shift, a greater shift into Leo with even more coming, these are my lights that like to turn off. And I don't have them on a setting, by the way. You may have just noticed. They just turned back on. This is one of the technology things that's just happening. Half the strand turns off and on at will. Anyways, with all of this Leo energy that is incoming, that is happening, I have a Rumi quote. I have to move my little cheat sheet coming up. I was looking for to see if Rumi had any other poems about the lion, because I love Rumi's poem, Roar, Lion of the Heart, and Tear Me Open. And I feel that's very appropriate for Mars and Leo, definitely. But I came across this one that does not have lion in it. But this is what I feel with Mercury conjunct the North Node, with the moon connecting to Mercury and the North Node, and with Mars moving into Leo. This quote from Rumi is, choose love, choose love. Without this beautiful love, life is nothing but a burden. And so I'm really feeling that energy with that moon in Gemini feeding into Mercury. It is in some way a mental process to continue to choose the love consciousness, to continue to choose to redirect ourselves from the head into the heart. There is a mental process in getting into that. So that moon in Gemini and Mercury is helping us get into this place where we choose love, because we know that is our destiny. We know that is the direction that we want to move into. So that feels like a very important connection in and through the day. The moon in Gemini feeding into the other things, moon conjunct Venus. Moon conjunct Venus is always a really interesting aspect to get into. Moon conjunct Venus. Choose love, choose love. Because without this beautiful love, life is nothing but a burden. It reiterates that point. But sometimes when we do not know our worth, which we spent a lot of time going into already, when we don't know that, we don't always tend to ourselves. We don't always love on ourselves. This dream card talks about in the book how, outside love is oftentimes very much a fantasy. Now, I'm not going to knock outside love or outside lovers at all, but your foundation is always going to be your self-love process. And the moon meeting up with Jupiter reminds us of that. Get firm in that foundation of self-love. And if you're feeling wonky in this energy, which, let's be fair, there's definitely a possibility of feeling a little wonky in this energy. Sometimes it's uncomfortable when things fall apart. Sometimes we get faced with our ego head on when this kind of energy comes up. There's a lot of mental energy. You may have been thinking something, and that thinking is stinking thinking. It's not authentic to your soul flow. So this may be part of the process. Self-love is your remedy in and through this. So move in that direction and let that be your foundation. And the more wonkiness you feel, the more this is an opportunity to buckle down, buckle in to that self-love process. Now, the moon opposite Saturn, that may be a tug of war when it comes to beliefs and thinking. Again, I feel like this may be an opportunity to shake loose some of those old thoughts. I talked about this yesterday or the day before, that your inner child may still be holding about yourself that are no longer true for who you are, or that were never true. It was never true that you weren't a good artist, or it was never true that you weren't doing the best that you could do. That was never true, but it's time that you really detach from that energy and let that go so that you can rise into who you are. Now, again, I have the awareness card in reverse. This may not come to you immediately, but if it does, especially as we're digging into the inner child, here comes all the Leo, if this does come up, this is your opportunity, really. Through this season of Leo. It's going to be such a big bang Leo time. This is going to be the time to shake it off, because it's hard to dance with the devil on your back. All right. One other aspect that we're going to get into before we get into Mars into Leo. So much today. Okay, the last thing. We will have Venus in conjunct Pluto. So like I said, with that moon conjunct Venus thing, we're going to have Venus in conjunct Pluto, and this may add to some of this discomfort. Pluto in Capricorn is shifting the foundation of things. So what may come up is these places that you've put others' opinions, others' thoughts, what other people have said as part of your foundation, and those things are not true, and those things do not serve you. So that may be part of the discomfort. This is definitely a very Plutonic card. I feel like I don't always love when I see this card. Sometimes I'm like, no. When I was shuffling, this card jumped out, and I was like, you're an important part of the process today. This card, this activity, this energy, these agents of change, Uranus and Pluto, are helping us today. So if it needs to shake off and come out, this is happening for us. And I just want to keep reminding you of that. It's happening for us to free us, to rise up into the innocence of our being. Okay, so Mars into Leo, finally getting into this. Mars will be in Leo through September 5th. So we get, a good month and a half of Mars moving through Leo. And again, I feel like with this energy, the Rumi poem, roar, lion of the heart, and tear me open. Mars is joining both the North Node and Mercury, and will be joined by the Moon and the Sun in just a few days. So we're going to have strong Leo energy. This is prepping us for 2 new moons in Leo and a big solar eclipse in Leo. So the Leo energy is so important at this time. Mars is how we take our action. Now Mars, like any planet, has its ways of being. Mars has the way of igniting passion, and Mars, when repressed often, has a way of pushing us into aggression. My hope is that through this freedom, that's happening, through this freedom, I have the freedom card, that's coming through, that it's going to be igniting our passion by focusing our action, focusing our attention on the power of love, the endurance of love, the vibration of love, the strength of love, the courage of love. That's the overall energy that I'm feeling with Mars and Leo, is really getting into the strength and the courage of honoring what love truly is within ourselves. Love is not attachment. Love is not things need to be this way. Love is our authentic foundation. Now we've been digging in through this Cancer time, getting into our authentic foundation. And so if you've dug in there, you will find this joy, this authentic joy and love is this true foundation. So how will you personally move through the world in a way that radiates this energy? That does take courage and strength, because just because you're radiating it doesn't mean that everybody else in your path will be. And so sometimes we're going to come across the people that are not. But what Maya said at the end of GPS last week was, love, that's all. And that's really going to be our lesson. And if you find yourself not moving from love, notice what space you're moving from. We talked about this a few weeks ago. If it's not love, it's fear. And so you may want to investigate that. That may be some of the shaking off that comes up, some of these old fears that stop us from moving in this direction. Now, one of the other things that I want to mention, Everything has its flip sides. One of the flip sides of Leo is the ego energy. And I think a lot of times ego is very tuned into fear of survival. It's like, I have to do this thing so that I'm going to survive. And so notice that if you're moving in that fearful direction. Is this coming because, because my ego says that this isn't going to work? And that's an opportunity to tend to your inner child. Mars in Leo is a wonderful time to take action where it comes to the inner child. Tend to that energy and see where that fear may have come from, where your ego is trying to protect you. Your ego is not the bad guy. Your ego is trying to protect you, and that's not a bad thing. But you have to see if you really do need to be protected. And if you do need to be protected, you again can do this in a manner that is loving and safe for you. So, the power of love, the passion of love, the endurance of love, the strength and the courage of love, embracing and activating and being motivated by Mars' motivation, being motivated by the force and the power of love moving in and through you at all times, because it comes directly from the universe. So it is at all times that this is happening, and it will take you into freedom. So freedom, you are releasing any self-imposed restrictions, here we go, or perceived limitations through the loving energy of openness. That is the power of love card. Of course, from the yantra cards, I have Mars. Mars, passion. You will reach your goal if you focus 100% on the project at hand. What would happen if you focus 100% on your love energy? What would that do to you? What would that do to your life? How would things shift for you? Let's see what happens. Let's do an experiment. Let's try that. And then because, Leo, I decided to pull a cat card. And I pulled mischief. And I think this, too, goes along so well with this Thunderbolt card. We're making this Thunderbolt card as light as possible. Mischief. Meet Jasper. He is a playful little trickster known to pounce on toes while you're sleeping and possibly tiptoe across your computer while you are trying to work. There's a twinkle of mischief in his eyes, but you can't help but love. He reminds us not to take things too seriously. Sometimes the biggest disasters can seem funny when you look at them through Jasper's eyes. He is lighthearted. He is laughter, giggles, and sighs. And yes, he really did steal a little sip out of your drink when you were looking the other way. So remember this little mischievous guy. Call in that energy, as well as the supportive healing energies to help you move through any upheaval that may come with and through this energy today. So thank you for sticking with me through this long scope. I know it's long, but wow, a lot is going on. Cancer is finishing up with a bang. Gemini had no chill. Cancer has no chill too. So that is it. Book a reading if you want to dive in deeper, and I will see you tomorrow. Namaste.